What's happening, guys? Mike Androli here, and it's clear that I'm going to have to respond to the new study published about red meat and how it's dangerous because it causes heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. As you know, I'm a big fan of red meat, especially grass-fed, organic meat. There's so many holes in here and so many assumptions. You got to understand, guys, there's studies out there, and studies are different types of studies. There's double-blind studies, which are the best. Double-blind clinical studies where the patients and the doctors don't know what they're eating. So the patient doesn't know what he's eating, and the doctors don't know what they're eating. So there's no biases, because in science there can be biases. Now this is impossible because you would have to monitor the person's eating. So that's why they do a lot of the studies in mental wards and hospitals where they control the group. This study here is an observational study. That means they're taking data from existing studies or surveys of large groups of people, and then looking at the statistics and making statistical models to basically make their claims true. I was looking at General Mills. General Mills owns all the cereal companies, Kashi's, all the cereal bars you eat. I guarantee they've donated millions and millions to Harvard. And not saying that it's connected, but if somebody's building gigantic schools for you, sometimes you write articles that promote grains and fruits and things that are going to, keep you in business, so you can keep doing your studies. General Mills gets to sell more grains, and basically the idea that red meat or meat in general is dangerous to your system. Sure, maybe if the animal's been polluted, but what's linked to heart disease, cancer, and diabetes is obesity. So when you become obese, your risk of heart disease go up, your risk of diabetes certainly go up, because you're probably becoming diabetic. That's what's causing you to become more obese, and your risk of cancer goes up. And if you think about, in hunter and gatherer cultures, they never ever get cancer. It's extremely rare. How do we know that? Missionaries going to towns, colonizing in Africa, colonizing in Australia, in the north, in Alaska. They spent time with the people, they studied the people, and they noticed when people would work for the colonies, they would get obese, they would get cancer, they would get heart disease, but the people that remained hunters and gatherers didn't. And what did the hunters and gatherers eat? There's all types of studies that go to current hunter and gatherer societies and examine what they eat. And none of them are vegetarians. Only along the equator would they even have the opportunity to eat a lot of some fruits and more fibrous vegetables. In the north, the Inuits, they would eat straight fat. They would eat 70% fat, eat seal blubber, and seal blubber and fish, and they had the lowest incidence of heart disease before sugar was introduced. It's really sugar and fructose and your insulin response that is causing obesity. Insulin in high levels, because you're eating so much grain, so many sugars. Processed sugars are the worst. It hits the pancreas. The pancreas releases more insulin into the system. It drives fat storage. You become obese. You become insulin resistant. When you become insulin resistant, your body has a tough time dealing with the blood sugar, and blood sugar is toxic to the system. It actually corrupts the system. That's why diabetics will go blind, or ulcers. We talked about this dozens of times before. And if you talk to the best lipidologist, say Dr. Dayspring in New Jersey, if you Google his name, he'll tell you exactly. He studies fats. That's his specialty. He'll tell you exactly how fats are formed. And most people don't realize it. When you eat too many starches, you eat too much sugars, your body just converts it into triglycerides. Red meat is not bad. 70% of your brain is made from fat. Most of your organs are made from fat. Every single cell in your body is composed of fat around the cell wall. So you need fat. You need to replace these things. So to vilify it is ridiculous. What did man eat for millions of years? Meat. Meat, vegetables. That's why you can't argue with the paleo. It's pretty conclusive. But sure, these studies can come out, and it can come attached with titles, and you see that grabby headline that says, "You're going to die, Mike is killing you," and it's just not true. So you have to make the judgments for yourself. This is America, and you know that people are going to pull your influence based on their needs. So if I want you to do kickboxing, I'm going to tell you the benefits and the studies that link kickboxing to having a great life. But as companies get bigger and stronger, they're able to manipulate and use the studies from different departments that have great titles to it, that want more funding, and so on and so on. So sum it all up, processed meats are bad with nitrates. Don't eat processed meats. Don't eat crap quality meat. The way that animal ate, it directly affects you. You don't want corn-fed anything. You want grass-fed, preferably wild venison style. Lamb gets lumped in here somehow. Lamb is most likely going to be free-range lamb. It's tough to pen up the lambs. They don't really they graze. They don't feed them grains. The cows, of course, get grass-fed, get good quality. So I'm sure you're not going to believe it off this one video, but if you need to, I refer you to Gary Taubes, the lead researcher, the one that's taken all the information from all the different departments and distilled it down into certain books. I speak to him regularly. He's a genius. I'm sure he's going to come out with a response, but linked together, I'll find out how much money General Mills, who's the biggest grain producer, food producer, is actually donating to the study. So it's always been sugar. Sugar causes heart disease. We didn't have heart disease until sugar was introduced. And if you want to use the China study, there's no link between, no statistical link if you look at the page with meat and cancer. It's statistically identical whether they ate meat or not. So the whole book is based on that. And then when it comes to the stats, there's no statistical difference between the two. So that doesn't make any sense, but it keeps trickling down. This dogma keeps getting repeated. People keep believing it. So it's not the hamburger, it's the bun on top. The bun's fine, that's in their mind, as long as it's a whole wheat bun. It's not true. Okay, the population's getting fatter, getting more obese. We're eating less red meat. We're eating less fats as a population, but we continue to get more obese. Why is that? Because hormones regulate the system, and your system is currently being regulated either to partition calories to energy or fat storage. The more fat you accumulate, the more insulin resistant you become, the more exposed you become to cancers, to heart disease, and diabetes. To link diabetes to red meat is absurd. Diabetes means your body's either not producing insulin or overproducing insulin, and insulin responds to blood sugar, not to proteins and fats. Of course, if you're eating high carbs, eating high fats, eating high proteins, they're bad. And also we need to look at social and economical classes. People that are vegetarians tend to be healthier people in general. But if you're poor, you're just scraping by and you're grabbing processed food at the corner store, you have a stressful life, you might get obese. You're eating lower quality foods. Your whole life is shaped differently. So to look at their diet versus somebody that has less stress, that is generally healthier, or their body's being treated better, less stress, not smoking, and then people that are smoking and a lower class and unable to buy organic food and other foods, it's tough to compare those two groups. So you really need to think about it from the base, because this has been a mess of a misinformation campaign. I'm sure it's going to keep going out. If I can at least have you do your own research, I have the studies right in front of me here. I'll post it up underneath this post, and you can take a look at it yourself. It's going to look like jibber jabber. Basically, they're taking statistics and they're running them through different models to get results that they already want. They start out by saying red meat has been associated with heart disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. So they're already operating from the assumption. So now they're just figuring out the number system to use and make that assumption correct. This is bad science. Okay, you want to have an hypothesis and just go from there. You don't want to have any preconceived notions about exactly what's been associated, because it's tough to do science like that, because you're biased from the get-go. Your whole study is based on that, and it costs a lot of money to do studies. I'm sure this has been a rant. If you need any information, hit me up, mike@ckyotrainer.com. Look at the Harvard A to Z study. Look at the New England Journal of Medicine study, and look at some other competing arguments. So take everything with a grain of salt. That'll be another one. Have a nice day.